Good evening, dear students. Welcome to the English Canvas. I hope you all are doing well. Today, we are stepping into the world of modernist poetry, a world full of questions, fragmented thoughts, and emotional depth. We'll be exploring a poem that revolutionized the modern English poetry, T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. So, this poem was written in 1910 and published in 1915, right? In a poetry magazine marking his debut as a modernist poet. So this poem is T.S. Eliot's first poem, the debut poem. This poem is considered a cornerstone of modernist literature and reflects the disillusionment, alienation, and inner conflict of 20th century life, particularly among the urban middle class. This poem is very important because it broke away from traditional romanticism and instead focused on the psychological complexities of the individual. The speaker is J. Alfred Prufrock. He is not a confident lover but a hesitant, a self doubting man full of insecurities and existential anxieties. So, T.S. Eliot uses stream of consciousness technique, fragmented imagery, and rich literary allusions, which became typical of modernist poetry. The poem was written during a time of immense social and cultural change before World War I. When the world was heading towards chaos and uncertainty. So, Eliot's work reflects the urban isolation, loss of traditional values, fear of aging and failure, and the feeling of being emotionally and spiritually lost. Right? So, चलिए पोएम को पढ़ते हैं लाइन बाय लाइन और डिस्कस करते हैं इसका डीप मीनिंग. So this poem opens with a few of Italian lines. These are the opening Italian epigraph. इसका जो ट्रांसलेशन है मैं इसको नहीं पढ़ूँगी क्योंकि मुझे इटालियन प्रोनाउंसिएशन नहीं आती है, तो मैं इसको ना ही पढ़ूँ तो ज़्यादा बेटर रहेगा. मैं आपको इसका मतलब बता देती हूँ. दिस इज़ एक्चुअली टेकन फ्रॉम डांटेस इन्फर्नो कैंटो 27, राइट. सो इसका मतलब है, इफ़ आई बिलीव्ड that my answer were to someone who would ever return to the world. आप ये लिख सकते हैं पॉज करके. So if I believed that my answers were to someone who would ever return to the world, this flame would shake no more. But since no one has ever returned alive from this depth, if what I hear is true, I answer you without fear of infamy. So these lines are spoken by Montefeltro, a soul suffering in hell. He agrees to confess his sins because he believed Dante, the pilgrim, will never return to earth, and thus his confession will remain secret. So T.S. Eliot uses these lines as an epigraph of the poem to mirror प्रूफरॉक्स ओन कन्फेशन. मतलब वो प्रूफरॉक के अपने कन्फेशन को यहाँ पे मिरर कर रहे हैं इस कन्फेशन के थ्रू, बिकॉज ही इज़ गोइंग टू शेयर हिज इनर थॉट्स with the reader, assuming they are distant and they won't judge him, right? So this epigraph sets the tone of confession, secrecy and despair, which turns throughout the poem, right? तो चलिए आगे पढ़ते हैं पोएम को. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. So these first three lines, it's at a first glance it sounds romantic. Let us go, यहाँ से शुरू हो रही है ये पोएम, तो ये थोड़ा सा रोमांटिक साउंड करता है, लाइक अ टिपिकल love song, but the simile, like a patient here, like a patient etherized upon a table, it abruptly disturbs the romantic tone. मतलब ये जो लाइन है, तो पहली और दूसरी, ये तो रोमांटिक है, मतलब इट साउंड्स रोमांटिक, बट जो थर्ड लाइन है ये इसको बिल्कुल डिस्टर्ब कर दिया इस लाइन ने, right? It abruptly disturbs the romantic tone. The image suggests lifelessness, paralysis, hinting at the speaker's own emotional and mental condition. So, this sets the modernist tone of disillusionment, right? Let us go through certain half deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights in one night cheap hotels. So the next three lines evoke a dreamy urban setting filled with boredom, cheapness, and restlessness. The muttering retreats and the restless nights, it suggests isolation and mental chaos, right? So this language mirrors Alfred Prufrock's anxious and disconnected mindset, right? And sawdust restaurants with oyster shells. So this sawdust here, there's a term sawdust. It is used to soak up spills, indicates decay or messiness. Oyster shells, often seized as a delicacy, may symbolize unfulfilled luxury or sexual suggestions, right? Streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent. So the streets are compared to a dull yet dangerous argument. The insidious intent could reflect Prufrock's fear of being drawn into confrontations, emotional intimacy, or we can say social expectations, right? To lead you an overwhelming question. Oh, don't ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. So there is a mysterious, overwhelming question that Prufrock is afraid to voice. Can I keep? Don't ask. Oh, don't ask. So he is afraid to voice something, to ask something. The eclipse and evasive tone show his fear and hesitation. He chooses instead to divert attention and move on, showing his paralysis and anxiety, right? In the room, the women come and go, talking to Michelangelo. Michelangelo कौन थे? Michelangelo, he was an Italian sculptor, painter, architect, poet. मतलब काफ़ी मतलब he is the poet of high Renaissance. He was born in public of Florence. His work was inspired by models from classic antiquity and had lasting influence on Western art. Right? So this refrain in the room where the women come and go, this refrain appears multiple times, perhaps to show the repetitive and shallow conversations of the upper class. Michelangelo, a Renaissance genius. Renaissance genius is reference to show how poetry worships high culture, which intimidates Prufrock and adds to his sense of inadequacy, right? So this is the first stanza of the poem in which we can see that the speaker is Alfred Prufrock invites someone. He invites someone, maybe the reader, maybe he invites us or an imagined companion to take a walk through the city, right? However, this is not a romantic or lively invitation. Instead, the atmosphere is unsettling and lifeless. The evening sky is compared to a patient lying unconscious and anesthetized on an operating table. Um, he the patient is in anesthetized condition on on an operating table, suggesting paralysis, numbness, and a lack of vitality. And this simile immediately sets a bleak modernist tone, portraying the world as disjointed and emotionally sterile. Through this unusual image, the T.S. Eliot signals that this poem will challenge conventional poetic beauty and reveal the fragmented nature of modern existence, right? And this line, in the room the women come and go, talking to Michelangelo. So basically these two lines offer a glimpse into a social world Prufrock inhabits. He observes a shallow repetitive scene where women walk in and out of the room, casually discussing the famous Renaissance artist Michelangelo. The repetition of this line later in the poem suggests that the emptiness and pretentiousness of such conversations, art is being name dropped more than genuinely discussed. So for Prufrock, it symbolizes the alienation he feels in his world of superficial social interaction where deep sincere communication is absent, right? अब चलिए नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ नेक्स्ट स्टेंजा पर चलते हैं. हाँ जी. So the yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes. The yellow fog. The yellow fog is described as a living creature, possibly a cat, gently rubbing against the windows. It creates a mysterious and eerie atmosphere. The yellow color may symbolize pollution, or we can say the industrial smoke or disease. तो येलो फॉग है जिसको हम पोल्यूशन कह सकते हैं, इंडस्ट्रियल स्मोक कह सकते हैं, बीमारी भी कह सकते हैं. ये जो फिगर है ये थोड़ी सी यहाँ पे मिस्ट्री है, हमें नाम नहीं दिया है कि क्या है. And it is rubbing its back upon the window panes, right? The yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes. So the fog or the smoke, पहले इसको fog बोला, अब इसको smoke बोला है, is now imagined as an animal जो muzzle कर रहा है basically, that reinforces the cat like imagery. It brushes its nose against the glass, अपनी वो नोज को ब्रश कर रहा है, रब कर रहा है अगेंस्ट द ग्लास, suggesting the closeness but also a barrier, like Prufrock's own emotional distance from others, right? Licked its tongue into the corners of the evening. So the fog is playful and animalistic, licking, that licked the edges of the evening, the corners को lick कर रहा है ना, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening. It means this is a sensory image that gives the fog both a physical presence and a sense of quiet invasion, right? Lingered upon the pools that stand in drains. So the fog settles over stagnant puddles, suggesting decay, stillness, and perhaps urban neglect. So there is a somberness and stagnation here, reflecting Prufrock's own life, right? Let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys. So the smoke, or we can say the fog, collects the black soot. Soot आप समझते हैं ना, जो चिमनीज में जो ब्लैक हो जाता है ना, काला काला जो हो जाता है, जो जैसे कहीं कुछ जलता है तो उसका जो धुआं एक जगह पर इकट्ठा होता है तो वो कुछ ब्लैक हो जाता है, ब्लैकिश हो जाता है, तो दैट इज सूट. ठीक है. तो so the fog, or we can say the smoke, collects the black soot from the chimneys on its back. It passively accepts pollution and filth, possibly mirroring Prufrock's passive personality and polluted inner world, right? Slipped by the terrace and made a sudden leap. So the fog's movement is cat-like again, fluid and sudden, it leaps past the terrace, graceful and silent, hinting at things hidden or lurking beneath the surface. And seeing that it was a soft October night. So the night is described as soft. जो night है ये soft है, suggesting calmness, gentleness, even melancholy. It's a moment of quiet observation. Curled once about the house and fell asleep. So the fog encircles. Curled हो रहा है ना, ये curled ऐसे ऐसे curled हो रहा है. So basically the fog encircles the house like a cat curling up and then sleeps. So the image is tender yet airy. It suggests both comfort and a haunting presence. So this stanza, this is a very richly symbolic stanza. Eliot compares the yellow fog, or we can say the smoke, of an industrial city to a cat, right? The fog moves silently and sensually through the urban landscape, rubbing against windows like corners, collecting soot, and eventually curling up like a sleepy pet, which is cat. So the imagery conveys a mood of quiet unease, melancholy and stagnation. The fog, while soft and cat-like, the fog जो है, it's very stagnation. The fog, while soft and cat-like, also symbolizes pollution and the emotional suffocation. It mirrors Prufrock's passivity, isolation, and the industrial decay around him. The entire atmosphere feels still and heavy, like time is suspended here. Up next stanza. And indeed, there will be time. So the speaker, Alfred Prufrock, Alfred Prufrock. So the speaker reassures himself that there is plenty of time ahead. So it's time to act, think, or decide, right? For the yellow smoke that slides along the streets. So the yellow smoke, possibly the fog or the pollution, becomes a recurring image. It glides slowly, symbolizing indecision, stagnation, or the passage of time, rubbing its back upon the window panes. Again, this is a personified image. The smoke behaves like a lazy cat rubbing against window. ये जो smoke है इसको यहाँ पर पूरा personify किया है as a cat which is rubbing its back against the window, right? Again suggesting aimlessness and or lethargy, right? There will be time, there will be time. So this repetition, there will be time, reinforces his procrastination and inner fear of action. It echoes a kind of nervous reassurance to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. So it refers to putting on a social mask, pretending or preparing to appear a certain way before others. It suggests inauthenticity or social anxiety, right? Next line. There will be time to murder and create. This is a powerful paradox. बहुत ही important. The speaker suggests there is time for both. The murder means destruction. आप इसको लिख लीजिए. Murder means destruction and create means creation. Murder means destruction and create means creation. So this is the time for both. If you want to destruct or destroy, then you can. If you want to create something, so this is the high time. This is possibly metaphorically killing old versions of oneself and creating the new ones. मतलब murder करना आपको older versions था उसका, मतलब आपके खुद का जो older version था उसका आपको murder करना और अपना ही new version को create करना है. Basically ये मतलब इस line का. So or we can say there is a reference. This is referencing artistic and intellectual facts, right? And time for all the work and days of hands. So this is a possible allusion to Hesiod's works and days. ये एक reference है यहाँ पर works and days का. that implies the routine of daily life chores, uh, labor or mundane activities, right? That lift and drop a question on your plate. So hands that offer questions, possibly metaphorically, of how people pose challenges or force introspection in conversations or relationships, right? Time for you and time for me. So this is there's another repetition of time for you and time for me, that reinforces the illusion of control over one's decision. He's trying to comfort himself, right? And time yet for 100 indecisions. So there will still be time for many moments of hesitation and confusion, and for 100 visions and revisions. So, and time for imagining things and then changing one's mind, more indecision and uncertainty before the taking of a toast and a tea. So, all of these internal chaos, the mental activity happens even before something as simple as tea, and highlight how overthinking dominates his life. In the room, the women come and go talking to Michelangelo. So again, ये line फिर से repeat हो गई है. The women discuss high art and culture. Actually, there is a return in the room. The women come and go. A return to an earlier refrain in the poem. The women move in and out of conversation or presence, possibly indifferent to the speaker. The women discuss high art. टॉकिंग टू माइकल एंजेलो का मतलब यहाँ पर ये है कि वो डिस्कस कर रहे हैं अबाउट हाई आर्ट एंड कल्चर, मे बी टू अपीयर intellectual, maybe. And this also reflects speakers' sense of inadequacy in their presence. So this section, this this stanza captures the speaker's preoccupation with time, indecision and anxiety about social encounters. The repeated reassurance that there will be time reveals a deeper paralysis. He delays decisions, overthinks action, and he feels both the change and judgment through rich imagery like the yellow smoke and the ironic tone that T.S. Eliot portrays a man caught between desire and dread, routine and revelation. The repeated refrain of women discussing Michelangelo shows his alienation and perhaps his envy of those confident in their intellect or role in society, right? चलिए नेक्स्ट स्टेंजा पर चलते हैं. And indeed there will be times, so the speaker reassures himself again that there is still enough time ahead for actions, for decisions, or even delays to wonder, do I dare and do I dare. So he's plagued by hesitation and self-doubt. So there's also a repetition, do I dare, which reflects his internal conflict about taking any bold step in life or expressing his desires. Time to turn back and descend the stair. So instead of facing something or someone confidently, he considers retreating physically and emotionally with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. So he is self-conscious and aware of his aging appearance. Because of his age, उसका एक मिडल ऑफ द हेयर में उसके एक बोल्ड स्पॉट हो गया, जो अक्सर मेल के हो जाता है जब उसकी एज बढ़ती है, तो उसके बिल्कुल हेड पर ना थोड़ा सा बॉल्ड हो जाता है ड्यू टू हिज एजिंग. सो he's very aware, he's self-conscious and aware of his aging appearance. They will say how his hair is growing thin. So he imagines, ये इसकी imagination इसलिए ब्रैकेट में भी है, he imagines people gossiping or judging him, highlighting his insecurity and anxiety about how others perceive him, right? My morning coat, my dollar mounting firmly to the chin. So he describes his formal carefully chosen clothing that reflects his attempt to appear respectable and composed. My necktie rich and modest, but asserted by a simple pin. So his outfit is both elegant and understated, revealing his desire to impress yet not seem too fleshy. Right? They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. So his outfit is both elegant, यहाँ बोला my necktie rich and modest. So यहाँ पर हमें दिखता है कि जो उसका आउटफिट है वो तो elegant भी है और understated भी है, and revealing his desire to impress yet not seem too fleshy, right? So they will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. So again he imagines, ये फिर से ब्रैकेट में है तो यहाँ पर फिर से इसकी imagination है. He imagines other criticizing his physical appearance, like he is obsessed with how others see him and feel inadequate. मतलब वो अपनी जो उसकी फिजिकल अपीयरेंस है अभी उसके लिए मतलब काफ़ी ज़्यादा वरीड है, ये लोगों को लेकर काफ़ी ज़्यादा कॉन्शियस है कि वो इसके बारे में क्या सोचेंगे. जैसे जैसे पहले उसने सोचा कि दे विल से हाउ हिज हेयर इज़ ग्रोइंग थिन, कि इसके बाल कितने पतले होते जा रहे हैं, मतलब बीच में से उड़ रहे हैं. अब ये कह रहा है कि अरे वो फिर कहेंगे कि इसकी आर्म्स और लेग्स कितने ज़्यादा थिन है. सो ही इज़ वेरी मच ऑब्सेस्ड. Prufrock is very much obsessed with how others see him, feels educate about him. Do I dare? So he repeats the central question, should he take the risk or action? It may refer to confessing love, changing life, or doing something meaningful. Disturb the universe. So this is a bold rhetorical question. बहुत important है ये. आप अपनी आंसर राइटिंग में भी इसको लिख सकते हो. Because even a small act in his mind feels like a disruption of the entire world, showing his extreme fear of change or rejection. In a minute, there is time, so he reflects on how quickly everything can change, how time is filled with countless choices for decisions and revisions, which a minute will reverse. So, decisions are not permanent, they can be changed quickly, even within a minute. This shows the instability and indecisiveness in his mind, right? So, these lines, this stanza, in this, Prufrock expresses intense self doubting, social anxiety, and fear of judgment. He is constantly worried about how others perceive his aging appearance and how others so he is very much worried about how the others perceive his aging appearance and is certain whether to take any significant action in life, perhaps declaring love or making a bold choice. Time to him is not liberating but reminder of endless delays and second guessing. इसका जो रिपीट क्वेश्चन है, डू आई डेयर 3 बार हुआ है ना, 1 2 3. So do I dare symbolizes his internal paralysis and fear of disturbing his stagnant and predictable life. The idea that decisions can be reversed so easily only deepens his inability to act decisively, right? Now the next stanza is, for I have known them already, known them all. So इसमें the speaker suggests he has already experienced everything. He experienced people, situations, emotions to the point of weariness. Have known the evenings, mornings, the afternoons. Um, he has lived through countless mundane days. His life feels monotonous and routine. I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. So ये ना बहुत ही फेमस मेटाफर है, इसको भी अपने आंसर में यूज़ कर सकते हो. This is a famous metaphor. It symbolizes how his life has been marked by small, repetitive, insignificant events, and this, like a measuring time through cups of coffees, right? Cups of coffee. I know the voice is dying with the dying fall. So here he hears people speaking in a fading or declining tone, perhaps hinting at how meaningless or half-hearted conversations feel to him beneath the music from a farther room. So basically, he feels distant from real life or connection, like hearing hearing life, right? Hearing life हो गया music, and from another, muffled and unreachable. So how should I presume? So this is also a rhetorical question, expresses his insecurity. How can I presume to act, to speak, to love, or to change anything, right? And I have known the eyes already, known them all. So he has seen judgment in others' eyes. Eyes symbolizes scrutiny, perception, and social pressure. The eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase. So the eyes of people reduce others to clutches or predefined ideas. The speaker fears being seen superficially, not as a full human being, right? And when I am formulated, sprawling on a pin, so he compares himself to an insect. अपने आप को एक insect से ये compare कर रहा है. The insect pinned for examination, right? Helpless and exposed. When I am pinned and wriggling on the wall. So he imagines being on display, judged by others, powerless to escape, again reinforcing his fear of scrutiny and rejection. Then, how should I begin? So, this line shows hesitation. He doesn't know how to open up or express himself, to spit out the all the but ends of my days and ways. तो spit out का मतलब यहाँ पर है confess. spit out मतलब confess कर देना, निकाल देना मुंह से. but ends का मतलब है यहाँ पर the left over. spit out का मतलब है confession और but ends का मतलब है left over. So the leftover insignificant fragments of his life, he feels his past is full of waste and regrets, not worth sharing. मतलब इतना कुछ नहीं है जिसको शेयर किया जाए, मतलब पास्ट बहुत ही वर्दलेस है इनका, ठीक. एंड हाउ शुड आई प्रिज्यूम? सो दिस इज ऑल्सो अ रिपीटेड क्वेश्चन again. So again expressing his deep rooted self doubt and anxiety about taking any meaningful action or making personal claims. So in this passage, the speaker J. Alfred Prufrock reflects on the repetitive, trivial nature of his life. He feels his existence is measured by insignificant routines like drinking coffee. He is acutely aware of social judgment and feels paralyzed by the thought of being reduced to a label or stereotype. Comparing himself to a pinned insect, he expresses intense self consciousness and emotional paralysis. The repetition of how should I presume shows his inability to take action, speak freely, or assert himself, especially in the matters of love and or self expression, right? चलिए नेक्स्ट स्टेंजा पढ़ते हैं. And I have known the arms already, known them all. So Prufrock continues his repetitive reflection, saying he has seen and recognized women's arm before, so he is familiar with the appearance and gestures of women, right? Arms that braceleted and white and bare. So he describes the arms as elegant and feminine, adorned with bracelets, फेयर स्किन्ड, मतलब वो जो आर्म है वो ब्रेसलेटेड है, वाइट है यानी कि फेयर स्किन्ड है, और बेयर है, इट मीन्स एक्सपोज्ड है, राइट. अभी इस फिर से इसकी इमेजिनेशन है. बट इन द लैम्प लाइट डाउन द लाइट ब्राउन हेयर. So here he suddenly notices a detail. The arms that seemed perfect and smooth in lamplight are actually covered with light brown hair. So this small imperfection causes him to fixate and digress in thought, right? Is it perfume from a dress. So he gets distracted again, wondering if it's the scent of a woman's perfume that makes him lose track of what he was trying to say or feel. That makes me so disgrace. So he questions if it is the sensory allure, like a scent or appearance, that makes his thoughts wander from their main path. So यहाँ पर इसका ये थोड़ा सा डिस्ट्रैक्शन हुआ है यहाँ पर. तो वो यही पूछ रहा है कि ये क्या है, मतलब ये सेंसरी एल्योर है, लाइक अ सेंट और अपीयरेंस, कि इसने अपने मेन पाथ से थोड़ा सा ये भटका, वॉन्डर हुआ थोड़ा सा. एंड आर्म्स that lie along a table or wrap about a shawl. See, so he paints a still image. इसने एक still image को paint किया है यहाँ पर. A women's arms either resting on table or gently wrapped in a shawl. So these static images suggest emotional distance or lack of connection here. And should I then presume how should I begin? So he hesitates again. Should he dare to assume something? Perhaps the right to speak, confess, or propose love? Or how should I begin? So he ends once more in anxiety and unsure how to start expressing himself or initiating action. So in this stanza, Prufrock continues to express his deep sense of social anxiety and emotional paralysis. He reflects on the physical beauty of women, particularly their arms, but quickly gets lost in minute details like body, hair, or perfume. These observations lead him to question himself again. Is he overstepping? Is he worthy? Is he worthy of expressing love? So he is deeply uncertain about how to speak, how to connect, or how to begin. So this stanza illustrates his inner conflict between desire and doubt, attraction and alienation, right? Now the next stanza is, shall I say I have gone at dusk through narrow streets? So Prufrock wonders if he should describe his lonely wanderings at dusk through confined gloomy alleyways. The setting symbolizes his mental state, which are dim, constrained, and isolated. And watch the smoke that rises from the pipes of lonely men in shirt sleeves leaning out of windows. So he observes other solitary men smoking by their windows, dressed informally, suggesting tiredness, routine, and emotional distance. This image reflects his own loneliness and alienation in a modern urban world, right? I should have been a pair of ragged claws. So here Prufrock shifts to a surreal metaphor. He believes he would be better off not as a man but as something primal and emotionless, like a pair of ragged claws. Pair of ragged claws, um, likely of a crab or sea creature, detaching himself from the painful human emotions and social expectations, scuttling across the floors of silent seas. So he imagined himself as a crab moving across the ocean floor, a lonely, silent, hidden existence. So this reflects his deep desire to escape from human interaction, embarrassment, and the pressure of society. So, in this short but powerful passage, Prufrock contemplates this futility and alienation of his urban life. He reflects on his meaningless routines and failed attempts at connection. The image of smoke from lonely men's pipes symbolizes sheer isolation. Ultimately, he wishes he were a mere creature of instinct, like a crab, who so he wouldn't have to confront the complexities and anxieties of human relationships. So, this surreal imagery expresses his deep feelings of inadequacy, disconnection, and existential despair. Right now, the next stanza is. and the afternoon, the evening sleeps so peacefully. So the speaker describes the slow passage of time, the afternoon blending into evening, appearing calm and almost lifeless, smooth by long fingers, possibly referring to the time personified as though time is being gently arranged or soothed out by an invisible hand, suggesting lethargy or the passivity, asleep, tired, or it malingers. So time of the day might truly be asleep or pretending to be of tired. Malingers means to feign illness or weakness to avoid action. So this reflects Prufrock's own tendency to procrastinate and avoid difficult decisions. मतलब बिल्कुल ऐसा प्रिटेंड करो कि हम तो बहुत बीमार हैं, हम बहुत वीक हैं, तो हम अब कुछ भी मतलब कोई भी एक्शन नहीं करेंगे. मतलब डिफ़िकल्टीज़ को अवॉइड करने का एक तरीका है लेज़ीनेस दिखाना कि अब तो हम बहुत बीमार हैं, हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते. Stretched on the floor here beside you and me. So the day is likened to a person lying on the floor between the speaker and the person he's addressing, showing how time is present but unmoving, like a silent witness or burden. Should I, after tea, cakes, and ices? So, after indulging in social rituals and small pleasures, polite and gentle activities like having tea or having desserts, cakes, ice creams, the speaker wanders. अब वो क्या बोलता है? Have the strength to force the moment to its crisis. So, does he have the courage to take a bold step or make a defining declaration? Possibly a romantic confession. Possibly, this is a romantic confession. Forcing the moment. Force the moment means creating a decisive change. But though I have wept and fasted, wept and prayed. So basically, he has experienced deep emotional and spiritual struggles, seeking clarity or courage through suffering and prayers. Right? Though I have seen my head grown slightly bald, brought in upon a platter. So this is a dramatic and ironic allusion to John the Baptist, who had whose head was brought on a platter after being executed. Prufrock imagines himself similarly judged or sacrificed. It also hints at his insecurity about aging. I am no prophet and he has no great matter. So he dismisses himself. उसको डर लग गया ना अपनी ये insecurity बहुत ज़्यादा उसके मन में. So he dismisses himself. He is not a prophet or someone important. And the situation is not grand. कारण कि बात भी कोई इतनी बड़ी नहीं है. There is no a great matter. So the situation is not grand or cosmic in scale. It's just his small and personal dilemma, right? I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker. So he once felt the possibility of greatness or a turning point in life, but it passed quickly like a flickering candle flame. And I have seen the eternal footman hold my coat and snicker. So basically, a haunting image is there. The eternal footman likely symbolizes death. He is personified as a mocking servant who holds his coat, perhaps preparing to lead him away, and laughs at him, reflecting Prufrock's sense of powerlessness. And in short, I was afraid. So the most direct and heartbreaking line is this is all his hesitation, inaction and internal struggle come down to this fear. डर लग गया ना उसको. I was afraid. So fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of insignificance, or fear of death. So this passage, yes, this passage captures Prufrock's paralysis and deep inner conflict. Time still the time seems still and passive. As he does, he contemplates whether he can make a decisive move in life, likely to confess his feelings, but feels overwhelmed and hesitant. Despite emotional struggles and self reflection, he sees himself as ordinary and afraid. The image of death mocking him highlights his fear of both life's choices and mortality. So the final admission is I was afraid. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, इसको भी अपने आंसर राइटिंग में यूज़ कर सकते हो. Lays bare the core of his inaction. Right? Now the next stanza is, and would it have been worth it after all? So the Prufrock questions the value of emotional vulnerability. He wonders, would it have been worth it to express his deep thoughts or feelings, to truly open up? After the cuffs, the marmalade, the tea, um, among the proselyte among some talk of you and me. So these lines evoke the mundane and superficial reaches of social interaction. The gentle setting contrasts sharply with the profound inner turmoil he feels. Would it have been worthwhile to have bitten off the matter with a smile, to have squeezed the universe into a ball, to roll it towards the some overwhelming question? So this metaphor is rich. To bite off, to bitten off the matter. Bitten off the matter means to confront the issue directly, perhaps love, purpose, or existence itself. Squeezing the universe, this here, squeezing the universe into ball. It suggests compressing all his thoughts, feelings, and meanings into one bold gesture, one attempt to make a grand declaration. To say, I am Lazarus, come from the dead, come back to tell you all, I shall tell you all. So this alludes to Lazarus from the Bible. ये Bible का reference है, whom Jesus raised from the dead, right? So Prufrock likens his revelation to returning from the dead, a symbolic return from emotional or existential numbness, and then daring to speak his truth. If one settling a pillow by her head should say, that is not what I meant at all, that is not it at all. So here lies the core of Prufrock's deepest fear, that even if he dared to express himself with intensity and vulnerability, he would be misunderstood, dismissed, or rejected. So the tone of the stanza is very emotional. It represents hesitation and insecurity. Prufrock is paralyzed by the fear of miscommunication and the possibility that this vulnerable confession might be met with indifference. There's irony and pathos. There's tragic irony. He imagines a monumental effort ending in a banal response. Prufrock feels that no matter how much he wants to connect, the world or the woman he is addressing will never truly understand him. ये जो सेक्शन है, ये पूरा का पूरा, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, बिकॉज दिस सेक्शन deepens the reader's understanding of Prufrock's emotional paralysis. He is not just afraid of rejection but of futility, that even the boldest act might end in misinterpretation and disappointment. It illustrates a core modernist concern, the failure of language and communication in a fragmented world, right? Now the next stanza is, and would it have been worth it after all? So Prufrock again questions whether expressing his true feelings would have been worth it in the end. This repetition shows his hesitation and or fear of rejection. Would it have been worthwhile? So he rephrases the question, trying to measure the emotional risk and the possible gain of opening up. After the sunset and the dooryard, the sprinkled streets. So these are everyday images, possibly romantic or nostalgic, suggesting the passage of time and ordinary experiences. He is reflecting on whether anything meaningful has come out of all these quite and poetic moments. After the novels, after the teacups, after the skirts that trail along the floor. So these are the symbol of domesticity, cultures, and social life. And the trailing skirts may refer to women he admired but never approached. He is summarizing all the polite, surface level experience he had. So and this and so much more. So he gestures vaguely at the full complexity of life and experience, which he finds hard to articulate. It is impossible to say just what I mean. So there is a cry of frustration, very important, बहुत important. इसको आप अगर कुछ ऐसा क्वेश्चन आए कि आपको डिस्क्राइब करना, कुछ लिखना है अबाउट द फ्रस्ट्रेशन ऑफ Prufrock, तो आप ये लाइन को लिख सकते हो, because this is a cry of frustration. Prufrock feels deeply but is unable to express his emotions clearly. This line shows his self-doubt and the limits of language. But as if a magic lantern threw the nerves in a pattern on a screen. So this metaphor compares emotional and psychological exposure to a projected image like an old medical and or theatrical lantern shows. So it suggests a kind of painful, clinically display of inner self. Would it have been worthwhile? So again, he asks if exposing himself so vulnerably would have been worth it, right? If once settling a pillow or throwing off a shawl. So this is an intimate domestic image, perhaps of a woman he imagines talking to. It's quiet and casual, showing her comfort and perhaps emotional distance. And turning toward the window, should say. So she doesn't even respond directly to him. She turns away, distracted or dismissive. that's that is not it at all. That is not it at all. That is not what I means at all. So this imagined response is painful dismissal. Prufrock fears that even if he makes the effort to express himself, the listener will not understand, or worse, will reject or misinterpret him entirely, right? So अगर हम पूरे stanza की बात करें तो in this reflective and uncertain moment, Prufrock questions whether expressing his deep feeling or thoughts would have been worthwhile at all. He lists mundane yet intimate images, sunsets, teacups, skirts trailing on floor, symbolizing the routine and emotional undercurrent of social life. Despite all this experience, he finds it impossible to express what he truly means. He imagines trying to explore, trying to explain himself with the total vulnerability, like the magic lantern here, projecting his innermost nerves on screen completely exposed. But he fears that even after opening his soul, the woman might simply respond with indifference or misunderstanding, saying, "That is not at all, that is not what I meant at all." Right? So, this repetition echoes his dread of being misunderstood and the futility he feels in human connection. Right? Now the next stanza is, "No, I am not Prince Hamlet nor was mean to be." यहाँ पर ये जो रेफरेंस है ये शेक्सपियर की ट्रेजेडी है, हैमलेट उसका रेफरेंस है ये. So Prufrock rejects the idea of being a tragic hero like Hamlet. He sees himself as too passive, indecisive and insignificant for such grandeur. मतलब वो इतना भी नहीं है, इतना भी उसको ग्रैंड, मतलब उसको इतनी भी एक्टिव नहीं है, वो बहुत ज़्यादा पैसिव है. ठीक है, मतलब ही इज़ वेरी insignificant for this kind of grandeur, right? I am an attendant lord, one that will do to swell a progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince, no doubt an easy tool. So he compares himself to a minor character. कभी कोई ऐसा होता है? हर इंसान अपनी कहानी में हीरो होता है और उसको होना भी चाहिए. लेकिन यहाँ ये जो कैरेक्टर है प्रूफ्रॉक, ये अपनी कहानी में खुद भी हीरो नहीं बनना चाहता बिकॉज ऑफ हिज पैसिविटी, हिज अनसर्टेनिटी, जो इसकी मतलब ये काफ़ी ज़्यादा इनडिसिसिव है, इनसिग्निफिकेंट समझता है खुद को काफ़ी। तो ये अपनी खुद की कहानी में भी हीरो नहीं है। ही कंपेयर्स हिमसेल्फ टू अ माइनर कैरेक्टर, अटेंडेंट लॉर्ड, मतलब एक एडवाइज़र होता है, नॉट अ लीडर। सो ही कंट्रीब्यूट्स टू द प्लॉट बट डज नॉट ड्राइव इट, मतलब ये प्लॉट को पूरा कंट्रीब्यूट तो कर देगा बट ही कांट ड्राइव इट। ही इज़ यूजफुल, मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि उसे कुछ आता नहीं है, ही इज़ वेरी यूजफुल बट नॉट इम्पॉर्टेंट, अ सपोर्टिंग रोल इन लाइफ, नॉट द प्रोटैगनिस्ट। तो यहाँ पर वो कह रहा है कि मैं एडवाइस करता हूँ प्रिंस को, नो डाउट बहुत अच्छे से, लेकिन आई एम इन द सपोर्टिंग रोल, नॉट द प्रोटैगनिस्ट, मैं हीरो नहीं हूँ। डिफरेंशियल, ग्लैड टू बी ऑफ यूज, politic, cautious, meticulous, full of high sentence but a bit obtuse. So here he describes himself as overly polite, कि मैं बहुत ज़्यादा polite हूँ, careful हूँ, cautious हूँ, and meticulous हूँ, verbose हूँ मैं, but lacking in depth, full of high sentence. Here, full of high sentence, it means, it implies he uses sophisticated language but a bit obtuse. Obtuse मतलब showing his perhaps unclear or ineffective, at times indeed almost ridiculous, uh, almost at times the fool. So he confesses his self-perception. Sometimes he feels laughable, like a coarse gesture, like a fool. ये भी शेक्सपियर के जो प्लेज हैं उनमें काफ़ी सारे प्लेज में ये करेक्टर है, फूल, द जेस्टर मतलब द क्लाउन. So he feels laughable like a coarse jester, not taken seriously at all. I grow old, I grow old. I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. So there's a repetition of I grow old. It shows his awareness and fearing of aging. Rolling his trousers may suggest an old-fashioned or quirky habit, or just a sign of resignated to physical change and relevance. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? So these are comically trivial questions. मतलब मैं अपने बालों को कैसे पार्ट करूँ, क्या मैं ये पीच खा लूँ, मतलब मैं पीच खाने की हिम्मत कर सकती. These are actually comically trivial questions that reflects his anxiety about aging and social perception. Eating a peach means it might representing taking risk or facing something messy and uncontrolled, something he hesitates to do. I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing each to each. So, and I don't think that they will sing to me. So here he imagines himself walking alone on the beach in white trousers. White flannel trousers, basically a symbol of detachment or fantasy. Mermaids, mythical, seductive creatures होती हैं, represents beauty, love and inspiration. And he believes they won't sing to him. मतलब ये जो गाना तो ये गा रही हैं, लेकिन एक दूसरे के लिए गाना गा रही हैं. मुझे पता है ये मेरे लिए तो नहीं गाना गाएंगी. So again, reinforcing his sense of unworthiness and isolation. बहुत ज़्यादा unworthy समझता है खुद को ये, और इसी वजह से उसने अपने आप को बहुत ज़्यादा isolate करके रखा है. ठीक है. I have seen them riding seawards on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves blown black. When the wind blows the water white and black. So this is a beautiful lyrical image. He envisions mermaids, or perhaps a symbol of unreachable beauty, drifting away. The white hair of waves evokes the old age again, or the mixing of fantasy and death. अब ये कुछ आखिरी लाइन है पोएम की. Though the poem is very long, right? We have lingered in chambers of the sea, by seagulls wreathed the seaweed red and brown, till human voices wake us and we drown. So, if in a dreamlike ending, this is a dreamlike ending, and he and others have lingered in a underwater fantasies. So this is a metaphor for escape from reality, but once human voice intrude, reality returns, and with it, destruction or death. So this final and closing passage, Prufrock distances himself from the heroic ideals. इसने कहा ना खुद को, मैं तो प्रिंस हेमलेट नहीं हूँ. So he distances himself from heroic ideals, defines his life in mediocrity and timidity. He portrays himself as aging, anxious, and full of hesitation. His longing for beauty, connection, or meaning is always out of reach. The final dreamlike image of the sea and mermaids represents a world of desired imagination, but reality interrupts it, ending in emotional and existential drowning. This ending reinforces the poem's central theme, that the tragedy of a life and unlived due to fear and doubt and overthinking. Right? तो यहाँ पोएम ये ख़त्म हो गई है. So thank you so much for joining this long lecture on the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. इस मास्टरपीस में हमने देखा कि ये एक मॉडर्न मैन की इंटरनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है, और ये टी.एस. एलियट का बिल्कुल फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट भी है, मतलब उनकी डेब्यू पोएम है ये. ठीक है, मतलब यहाँ पर इन्होंने मॉडर्न मैन की इंटरनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट को दिखाया है, उनकी इनसिक्योरिटीज़, उनका इमोशनल स्ट्रगल. ये पोएम हमें सिर्फ एक कैरेक्टर के बारे में नहीं, बल्कि एक प्योर पूरे एरा का मिरर उसको मतलब मिरर दिखाती है ये. So today we explored complexities of a modern man's mind, his insecurities, fears, hesitation, and the haunting sense of time slipping away. Through Eliot's fragmented yet beautifully constructed verse, we witness the emotional paralysis of Prufrock, a man who represents many of us in this fast-changing and uncertain world. So if you found this explanation helpful, do give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your support truly encourages me to bring you more such enriching literary content. So in our next class, we will explore another powerful poem by T.S. Eliot, one that continues to challenge and inspire readers even today. So stay tuned. Until then, keep reading, keep reflecting, and keep falling in love with literatures. Thank you.